All right. Final session. Gotta get pumped up from my students. Woo! All right. Where's my, yeah. All right. You're the man. No, me? No, you're the man. You got this. Yeah, you. You're the man. Don't judge me. It's my routine. You ready to film? All right. Let's go. Hey everyone, welcome back. This is it. This is the third and final session of our three-part series on the basics of communication. Now, let's do a quick review because we've done a lot. We've talked a lot. Remember in our first session, we talked about, well, why is communication even important? Remember I said, why should we care, right? I was kind of thinking about what you guys would ask me, Jason, why should we care? So we talked about why you should care about communication. We did that. Then we also we came up with a definition of what communication is. Then in session 2, we took a step forward and we talked about the parts to communication, right? To communicate, there is a process. So we talked about the 3-part process of communication, right? So hopefully by now you guys have reviewed that, and we also looked at the video. We looked at an example, right, from the movie Inside Out. We took that clip, and it was just a way for us to see it in action. Now, today as we finish up, I'm going to leave you with one more thing to think about when it comes to communication basics. And it has to do with style. That's right, style. Now, if you think about style, you probably think about music, different styles of music, different styles of clothing, right? Style is not just one thing. Everyone has a different style. This is why one of the things I want to leave you with as we finish this session and this whole series on communication basics is that there's no one right way to do communication. It's almost like an art. There's no right way, there's no wrong way. What I've given you all are just different ideas, different things to think about, but there's no one way to do it. And you're going to see today when we talk about the different styles to communication, or as I show you when we get to the whiteboard in a moment, we have categories, right? So we're going to talk about different categories or different styles. I'll let you choose the one that you like. Categories of communication or styles of communication. So today we're going to break all of that down, what it means for you, why is it important, and then we'll start to close up. So without further ado, let's go to the board and talk about the different styles of communication. I'll see you guys at the board. All right, you all, you recognize the board, and so let's get into it. We have categories of communication or styles. I personally like styles, but you pick the one that you like the most, right? But it's all about, the point of me showing you all this is that I want you all to understand that there's different ways that people communicate. And as we go through this, think about you. How do you communicate, right? And so when we talk about styles of communication, there's a lot. I'm sure we can make a list of 8, 9, 10, but we're gonna break it down. We're gonna talk about 4, okay? As you see here, we've got 4. Some of them, by just looking at it, even though we haven't written it out yet, you can probably take a guess at what some of these are. Some of you all know all 4, but let's go through it together. So first style of communication is verbal. Verbal communication, right? In other words, right now I'm using verbal communication. I'm talking, right, via my mouth, right? Anything comes out of my mouth. The other way we can, if you don't like verbal, spoken, right? Verbal spoken communication, right? That's the one, that's the most popular one. Most people know. Yeah, how do you communicate? Well, through your mouth. Number 2, we have non-verbal, right? Non-verbal communication. So a lot of times, you don't have to say a word and you say a lot. So for example, if I did this, all right? If you see what I just did, right, I'll do it again. Right? I look like I'm mad, but I didn't say I was mad. But if you looked at me and I said, "What's going on?" and someone asked, "What's Jason doing?" He looks mad, right? I didn't have to say anything, right? That's a non-verbal communication, right? So we've got verbal, we've got nonverbal. Number 3, written. We can communicate by writing. And then the last one is visual. Right? We'll talk more about that when we break these down. Visual communication is the last one. So let's recap. We've got verbal, spoken communication. We've got nonverbal communication. We have written communication, and we have visual communication, okay? Now, we're gonna go from this whiteboard, we're gonna go into my computer, and what I hope we can do together is we're gonna break each one of these down. I'm gonna give you all some examples, some stories, that way you guys can better understand what we're talking about here. Again, different styles, and this is gonna be something that when we move on to the more advanced parts of communication, you will see this again. So the reason why I'm saving this for the last session is because I want you all to think about this, because you will see this again when we continue our next class, which will be beyond the basics of communication. So get ready, we're gonna go into my computer and I'll see you all there in a moment. All right, let's go. All right, you all, so you should see my screen on your screen with spoken verbal here at the top. So let's talk about it. Normally when I ask students, tell me the most popular way, tell me the ways that we can communicate, spoken or verbal communication normally is the number one answer. Why? Because most of us, we do it, right? So let's talk about this a little bit more, because when it comes to spoken or verbal communication, there's something that sometimes we forget. And it's a word, as you see here, starts with the letter T, right? Let me get my pencil, right? And that word is T-O-N-E, tone. And I'm even gonna put a exclamation point, right? Very, very important. So what is tone? I'll give you an example. Let's say you asked me a question. Let's say the question was, hey Jason, how you doing today? Right? And let's say my response was this: I'm fine. There's a lot of ways that I can say that, right? So if you were to ask me, Jason, how you doing today? I can tell it to you this way: oh, I'm fine. How you doing? Right? If for you what would that sound like? Yeah, he's fine, right? But what if you asked me the question, right? So you would ask me, Jason, how you doing? And let's say my response was, I'm fine. Right? Different tone, right? That's a different tone. The first one was, well, I'm fine, how you doing, right? Right? Normal answer, right? But the second one was, I'm fine, right? That says something completely different, doesn't it? It almost sounds like, yeah, Jason's mad. I'm not gonna talk to him right now, right? But what changed? I said the same thing. The first one, my answer was, I'm fine. The second one, my answer was, I'm fine. So what changed? That's right. The tone changed. Right? This is why I don't know if any of you all have ever heard this sentence. It's not what you say, it's exactly how you say it. It's not always what you say, it's how you say it, right? So the way I said it, right? My tone, I'm fine, right? Really, I'm not fine. Right? So tone is something very important, something that I want you guys to think about. I don't know if when you think about the way you communicate, is tone something you ever think about? Like, oh yeah, like whenever I talk to people, sometimes my tone's too loud, or I always have an attitude, or someone, if someone asks me a question or something, my response is always short, right? Or so different things to think about, right? When it comes to the way you speak, you want to think about, right? How's my tone? Is the tone appropriate, right? So again, spoken verbal communication. We all know this. When we communicate face to face, over the phone. What about for a job interview, right? So if they called you for a job interview and said, "Is this Jason?" and my response was, "Yeah." Not maybe the best way to respond versus if they call me, "Is this Jason?" "Yes, this is Jason." See, different tone. Again, so think about the tone when you're working and practicing on your spoken communication, right? So now that we have that one down, let's go now to the next one. We're going to be talking about nonverbal communication, all right? So let's talk about some of the ways you would communicate if you're not speaking, if you're not saying anything, right? One way we can look at is something called body language. You all know this, right? Body language. So let's say we're in class and I'm sitting at the desk and I look like this. Yeah, right? I look bored, sleepy, right? I don't care, right? Right? So my nonverbal, my body language, I'm communicating that I don't care, right? What about if I did something like this? Right? I'm not saying anything, but if you look at me, if you look at what I was just doing, arms crossed, right? It's like I'm either mad or like I don't care, I'm worried, I got something on my mind, right? But see, I didn't even say anything, right? Just by looking at me, right? You know, right, that I'm saying something, right? So that's what's called body language. Another thing we can look at when it comes to nonverbal is sign language. Right? Sign language is a great way to communicate, right? I'm not sure if you know anyone that can't hear, right? But if you do, just because someone can't hear, does that mean they can't communicate? No, they can absolutely communicate. A lot of them will use, right? Sign language it's a whole language. It's called ASL, American Sign Language, right? So that's another way. Most people, when I say nonverbal and I ask my students, how do nonverbal people communicate? And a lot of them, so sign language is a pretty popular answer. So if you thought of that, very good. What about this one? Scent, right? Smell or hygiene, right? Right. So how you smell, what's your hygiene? That communicates a lot, right? So if you're not a fan of maybe brushing your teeth or taking a shower or putting deodorant on, you know, like my body, if I didn't do that, my body would probably do the same thing your body does. It starts to stink, right? And so if we're going out talking to people, we're going out for jobs and our scent is not good, our hygiene's not good, what's going to happen is that other person, because the body odor is strong, right? No one can hide that. So they'll start, what is that smell? What happens is they take the focus off of you and what you have to say, and the focus goes to the smell, right? So think about that. So how's your hygiene, right? How's your scent, right? Are you guys doing what you need to do to take care of yourself, to take care of your body? Something very important. Could you be too much? Well, let's say, hey, Mr. Jason, like, I'm good. I shower, I brush my teeth, I do it all. But let's say you want to smell a little too good, right? Maybe you put on a little bit too much cologne, a little bit too much perfume. That could also work against you because, again, right, that's too much. So if you're communicating to somebody and you have a lot of cologne, a lot of perfume on, again, that person's going to be like, what is that? Oh my God, that smells. It's just too much. And then they take the focus off of you, right? So nothing wrong to smell. You want to smell good, right? But you don't have to do too much, right? So again, when it comes to nonverbal with the scent, right, that is communication. You are communicating something. So keep that in mind. Think about how's my hygiene? How's my communication there? My scent, all right? So nonverbal, body language, sign language, scent, hygiene, so many other different ways. Again, if you can think of other nonverbal ways to communicate, put it in the chat below. I'd love to see your answers, right? So now let's go to the next one. Written communication, right? We can communicate through the things that we say, but we could also communicate by the way we write. One that comes to my mind is music, right? Song lyrics. I'm not sure if anyone out there is a music fan like I am. I love music. I love the music for the beats, but I also love it for the lyrics. And if you read some of the lyrics, a lot of lyrics tell a story, right? So that's a way of communicating. But there's other ways, and again, I'm sure your mind is going, yeah, there's other ways you can communicate as well. Writing. The one that comes to me, I'm going to write it here so you can see, is text message, right? A lot of you all text message. We can also look at writing things through email. I'm sure a lot of you guys use email as well. That's another way that we can communicate. Text message, email. Then we could also add, if any of you all are on social media, right? So social media is interesting because you can write stuff, you can put videos. So there's a lot of ways using social media that you can communicate written, right? You can type a post. Email, typing, right? It's all written. Or you can go, let me see if I have a space here. I'll put it right here, right? Pen, pencil, right? And paper, right? So good, or even me, like, so as you see, I'm writing on a tablet, right? And so that's the way I'm communicating to you all right now by writing, right? But let's talk about this one, right? Text message. Text message is interesting. It's a great way to communicate, right? Sometimes you're not able to get on the phone and use your verbal communication, but sometimes we just want to send a quick text message, and then they get it whenever they get it, and then they respond back. This is something I want to think. I should actually show you a story. I was teaching a class, and in the middle of the class, I got a text message, and it was from my mom. And she wanted to let me know something, and it was for my mom, it was urgent. And so she kept messaging me. And so when the students had their break, I looked at my phone and I read the text message, and here was my response. I'm going to type it, I'm going to put it here for you. All right. This was my response to my mom. Okay. All right. Okay. When you think of okay, right? And I sent it. You all, I thought that I had said some bad word or something, because the message that I got from my mom in the text message was, "I don't appreciate your attitude." And I'm like, all I wrote was, okay, right? So I share that story with you because we're going to get, when we talk about our last one with visualization communication, right? I learned, apparently, I'm going to put it here, I didn't put okay with an emoji or a smiley face, right? So it's interesting how, remember we talked about communication? You have a sender, you have a receiver. So I was sending mom a text message. When my mom received it, right, she said she saw okay, and for some reason she thought that was an attitude because it was short, right? Maybe if I put the emoji, she would have said, "Oh, okay, no problem." Right? So something to think about when it comes to, right, written communication. If you're writing emails, how are you writing your emails? Are you writing it the way you talk, right? How's your grammar, right? Are you writing too long? Are you not getting to the point? So things to practice, right? Now, you all may not be using any of this, right? But if you're a person that uses written communication, this is something for you all to think about, right? Something to practice on, okay? And really, this is my favorite style. If you're communicating with me, the best style that I like is visual. I like when people show me something. Now, that doesn't mean that if they want to tell me something by using verbal communication, I'm going to say, no, don't talk to me that way, right? We can't do that. But when someone shows me something, the way everyone's mind is different. I think that's very important. That's why I give you all a couple of different styles. Because for me, I love this style. I like when people will show me something. For the way my brain works, it's like, oh, okay, I understand it, right? And so really, visual is that, show me, right? Show me what you're talking about. Give me an example, give me a picture, paint me a picture, show me an example on the internet, right? Draw me something on the board, right? Like this is an example here, right? I'm using my little board to show you. So for example, right, one example would be maps, right? Maps is a great example of visual communication. Instead of me telling you, go straight, take a left, go straight again, then take a left, then go take a right, right? That's just like, what are you talking about, right? But if I were to show you on a map, right? Maybe that would work better for you. Oh, I see now, right? And now with technology, with the phones, right? A lot of the smartphones have a map, right? Where it'll just tell you, you just have to listen, right? Take a left here, take a right here. But you can actually also see it as well. So maps is an example. But here's the one that I want to really share that you all would know. So when it comes to visual communication, let me see if I can pull it up here. We have, actually let me write it first. You all know them as emojis. I almost spelled that right. Emojis. They look something like that, right? All these emojis, right? That's how people communicate. Some people, they only communicate with emojis, right? So I think about the story with my mom, right? Maybe when I said okay, maybe if I had put okay with a smiley emoji, that would have communicated to her, okay, cool, no problem, right? And so just something, so this is a great example. Emojis wasn't always around, but again, different style. We have new styles of communication. I think that's important for us to talk about. New ways of communicating, right? So emojis is one of those ways in terms of visual communication, okay? So again, maps, emojis. Are there any other examples that you guys can think of? Maybe your teachers, they use their smartboard on the presentation so you can see it. Any other examples that you can think of? Let me know. I would love to see it in the chat below, visual communication examples. Alrighty, so we've covered all four. Now, one more thing that I want to do with you guys so that we can wrap things up. All right, hang in there. You guys are doing great. All right, you all. So now that we've talked about the styles, let's actually now put it to the test. Let's see if you all can identify or pick out the different styles. So we're going to watch that clip again from Inside Out. You watched it in session 2, so we're not going to talk about the scene. You guys have seen it, but we're going to break it down and let's work together. Let's see if we can find the different communication styles. So we're going to play it and then I'm going to stop it a few times and see if you guys see what I see when we actually break this down. All right, so let's watch. I'm going to play it now.
Keep it subtle so she doesn't notice.
So, how was the first day of school?
She's probing us.
I'm done. You pretend to be Joy.
What? Okay,
It was fine, I guess. I don't know.
All right. So her response, did you hear what she said? She's like, yeah, I'm fine. I don't know. Right? Was she really fine? What did you all see there? It looks to me that she's just kind of annoyed, right? Like, I don't know. Like, leave me alone. Don't ask me questions. Right? But you remember, she didn't say any of that. She just said, I'm fine. Right? But is she really fine? So see, this is an example of, right, tone. Remember we talked about tone, verbal communication, her tone. I'm fine, I guess. I don't know. Right? So she sounds just annoyed, right? So that's an example of verbal. She's talking, but you heard the tone change as she was giving her answer. All right? So let's keep going.
Oh, very smooth. That was just like Joy.
Something is definitely going on.
She's never acted like this before. What should we do? We're gonna find out what's happening, but we'll need support. Signal the husband.
Ahem.
With a nice pass over to Reed, comes across that right.
All right? So you see here the mom not saying anything. It's like, right? Let's see what else she does.
Uh-oh, she's looking at us.
You see the look, right? Doesn't have to say anything, right? There is the look right there, like, right? So that would be an example of what? That's right, non-verbal, right? She doesn't have to say anything, right? But that look, right? Her body language, right? Those eyes, like, all right? She's saying, hey, pay attention, all right? So let's keep going.
What did she say?
What? Oh, sorry, sir. No one was listening.
Is it garbage night? We left the toilet seat up. What? What is it, woman? What?
He's making that stupid face again.
I could strangle him right now.
Signal him again.
All right, you see there's the eyes,
So,
right?
Riley,
Non-verbal communication.
You gotta be kidding me.
For this, we gave up that Brazilian helicopter pilot?
Boo! I'll be Jewel.
School was great, all right?
You see? So we go back to what? Verbal, the tone. Remember? not what you say, it's how you say it, right? So she's like, it's great. But is she really great, right? It's one thing to say, yeah, it was great. It's another to be what, like her response, yeah, it was great. All right, so again, tone.
Riley, is everything okay?
Sir, she.
See, here we go. So what is that saying? Like attitude, right? Or another, you'll hear him say sass, right? Doesn't have to say anything, right? But just her body language, right? Just her right? She doesn't have to, nothing has to come out of her mouth, right? Well, she was making sound, but you know what I'm saying, right? Doesn't have to really say anything for us to see, like, she's getting a little attitude here. So let's play it the rest of the way, see what happens.
Just rolled her eyes at us.
What is her deal? All right, make a show of force. I don't want to have to put the foot down.
No, not the foot.
Riley, I do not like this new attitude.
Oh, I'll show you attitude, okay?
No. Stay happy!
What is your problem? Just leave me alone.
Sir, reporting high levels of.
I don't know where this disrespectful attitude came from.
You want a piece of this, Pops? Come and get it!
Yeah, well.
Here it comes. Prepare the foot.
Keys to safety position. Ready to launch on your command, sir.
Just shut up!
Fire!
That's it. Go to your room. Now.
Oh boy, right? There it is right there, right? It was all over from this. So you see, right, her tone went up, right? Shut up, right? She was just so angry at this point. Obviously, you know, they sent her to her room. And so I just wanted to show you again, this is a great example. You see it here in action. You have the communication, right? You have all the things going on. You have the sender, the receiver, they're talking to each other, but now we see the different styles. We see the verbal, the tone, we see the nonverbals. We didn't see maybe verbal, I'm sorry, not verbal, but the visual or the written. And that's on purpose because sometimes we won't see all the styles. In this case, we only saw 2 of the styles. Sometimes you'll see all 4 of the styles. So that's something for you guys to also think about, that sometimes you may not see them, right? Communication, you don't need all the styles to communicate. You just need 1, maybe 2, right? So in this case, we saw, right, 2 examples. So I hope this helps you to not only, we've talked about it, but you could see the example, you can see it in action, all right? So hopefully that helped you guys out, and now we're gonna move on and start to finish things up. Hey you all, guess what? That is it. We made it to the end of the series. Let me give you all a round of applause. You deserved it. We did so much in these past couple of weeks. We talked about communication, why is it important, what is communication, the parts of communication, the styles of communication. I took you to the whiteboard, I took you in my computer, I showed you a video clip from a movie we talked about. We did so much, and so we're gonna give this a rest. I think I've given you all a lot of information on the basics of communication, but does that mean I've taught you everything on communication? Nope. There's so much more that we can learn about, and we will later. So for now, if you need to review the videos again, go for it. If you have any questions, send them to me, right? You can email me. You can write them in the chat below in this video. We'll get them and we will answer all of your questions, any of your questions, anything that has to do with communication. How can we help? Remember, communication, it's not just something, right? Communication is everything, right? So practice, because that's the only way you're gonna get good at anything. All right, take care. I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.